But one thing I do want to clarify is that I'm not anti-police, and I don't know what my message has been received by some people.
And now, coming to you from the K2 studios in San Diego, California, it's the world-famous Chris and Christine Show.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? How you guys doing today out there? I am Chris.
And I'm Christine, and welcome to the 63rd episode of the Chris and Christine Show.
Great old fantastic. How you doing today, baby?
I am doing great. Today has been a monumental day in the United States of America, right, Chris?
Well, because it's Saturday, hey, I know, and it's raining here. At least here it is.
No, but there is something much bigger that you know about that I've been very excited about all day long.
And what was that, baby?
That is that the Associated Press finally called the presidential election today. Even though the press can't really determine who is the president, they're saying that the votes are in far enough to be able to declare a winner. And it was...
Who? Tell me. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Joe Biden.
Cup of Joe got elected president. Does he know that? He's
the president-elect. And so that means that it's still waiting on the Electoral College to officially cast their votes on December 14th. But what it also means, and the reason I was so excited, is that for the first time ever in the history of the United States, there is a female vice president-elect.
Whoa. It's like that show Veep. You ever see that show? I think it was on HBO.
No.
Or Showtime.
I watched West Wing and I watched Scandal. Yeah.
What was Scandal about?
It was about a president and his mistress.
Oh, that sounds hot. That's hot. So, well, that's pretty cool then. It's pretty exciting, I guess, you know?
You guess. It is groundbreaking. It is earth-shattering. It is smash the glass ceiling, smash the patriarchy. Here we go, ladies. Let's take it to the top.
Woo-hoo. Well, today happens to be Saturday, and all the news broke this morning when I woke up on my phone. I didn't sleep very much, but I did look at my phone. I did see all the news coming through Twitter, Instagram. All the news sources were plugging away. But have they officially counted all the votes? Like, are they all in right now?
No, they haven't. And there's a rumor out there that there's a bunch of lawsuits that are going to start happening as of Monday. Because, of course, President Trump has not conceded the election.
And do you think he will?
You know, I don't think so. And I think that there's going to be a rough patch up ahead for all of us. And, you know, my celebrating this does not state my specific political position. It's just saying,
are you sure?
I am sure. I do not share my specific political position. What I am excited about is that we have a female in the White House, not just as a first lady, but helping to lead the country for the first time ever. And it's just very, very exciting. And so, you know, it could be bundled up in lots of court battles for the next couple of months until the December 14th vote or until the inauguration. Who knows?
Well, we usually don't talk about politics too much on this show. That's kind of something you really kind of don't want to talk about too much because it really rubs people the wrong way.
Right.
Everybody's very opinionated. I mean, the vote came in to the wire. It was almost split 50-50 down the middle. If you look at all the numbers, you know, they're pretty close. So,
well, yeah, and we're not going to get into all that because, again, this is not about Chris's and my political position. We were just mentioning that it is a very monumental time for us in the United States for women's equality, which you all know from listening that I am a huge, huge advocate for. Right, Chris?
Oh, I am too. Go women. Women's rights. Amen, sister. You go. I got to give a good old, you go, girl. Get them.
All right. Thank you for that, Chris. We appreciate that. But what's been going on with you this week?
Well, this week, back to work, the usual grind. You know, work's been kind of okay. They took my truck away. I drive at work.
What are you doing? Delivering gas on a bicycle now?
I really am. It's weird. I put this backpack and I have a couple jugs I carry and deliver to each car one by one.
Oh my gosh.
Did I get your car today?
They should give you a jetpack. They should give you like...
Oh, so it burns up?
You know, like the ones that you can like put on your back and it has the jets that make you like fly over the water. Have you seen those? Like the people that like shoots out water.
Yeah, but those are like they have this hose that goes into the water. So
I know
the
you
water
could have one
comes
for
in.
gasoline.
Sure, that sounds safe. It's all sounds wonderful. I'm sure it'll explode. But no, the truck I normally drive at work, they retired it. They like retired its number. It's they had a farewell. I wasn't there to say the farewell before it went away. I just
took the old horse to the glue factory.
They did, didn't they? And now I'm driving whatever piece of, let's say, quality equipment, quotation marks, that they give me to use.
So you're officially an orphan driver.
Pretty much.
Aw, somebody will adopt you.
I know. My new truck is supposed to be coming in. Truck number 77, lucky 77.
But it couldn't commit to you. It had commitment issues.
Well,
like it failed to continue driving.
Well, it's on its way down from LA to San Diego. Sometime in the near couple weeks, hopefully it'll be ready to go. And
wait, a couple weeks to get a car from LA to San Diego?
A truck from LA.
Right, but a couple weeks? Like, are they going an inch a day or something?
No, what they're doing is, I guess it's already there. They got to, what they said they're going to do? Oh, they were going to polish it. Make it nice and shiny, like basically detail it for me.
Because they know how OCD you are about your car washes. So they're like, this one's going to Smith. We're going to get this one cleaned up and take off all of the old grit and grime so that it's ready for him.
Pretty much. It's going to be like a big shiny mirror. Like so shiny that during the day, it'll melt your face off. That's basically what it does, really.
It's because you're flashy.
I know, totally. So that's been my work week for the most part all week long. And now that we're here, it was so hot this week, but today the heavens opened up. Somebody was crying, and it's been raining all day on this weekend,
Yeah, it has been, which makes me nervous because what I have coming up tomorrow is my bridal shower.
Ooh, really? What's that like?
Well, it's supposed to be out on the beach, and so I'm a little bit anxious about that happening tomorrow because the storm is supposed to still be here, but I'm very, very excited that for the first time ever, my parents have come down to stay with Chris and I here at the house for the weekend.
They're sleeping next door.
I know.
Be quiet.
They're across the hallway while we're recording this because it is late at night. But I'm very excited that they are down here with us. And my mom and I took some time to run some errands this afternoon and get lots of wedding stuff organized. And I am in my last week of the semester at school. I have 3 pages left of one report, and then I am done for 2 months. I get a 2-month break from school.
That is fantastic. Is it like your winter break? Yeah, right?
Right. Yeah, it's the winter break, but most of the universities backed up their calendar before Thanksgiving to cut their semester because they were afraid of the second wave of COVID. And that was before all of the universities decided to stay in a distance learning format. And so we had a compacted semester, which means I've been working really hard and long hours to get the same amount of work done in a shorter time frame. And so I think I've had like 8 projects for this class, 2 big papers and 3 smaller projects on an almost weekly basis. And it's been intense.
Wow, that sounds like amazing. I mean, you're running through it pretty quickly, getting it all done. So what are you going to do on your big 2-month vacation?
Well, let's see. A week after my vacation from school starts, I'm going to marry you.
This guy right here?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Why don't you tell me? I guess I should get ready for it, I guess.
Well, yep. We're on the 13-day countdown. Almost 12 days, and it is getting real around here, right, Chris?
Yes, it is. Every day, the Amazon delivery guy just drops off like a ton of junk. Boxes of stuff.
Well, today we got a tower of wedding, like bridal shower gifts that were dropped on the doorstep, right, Chris?
Right. The funny thing is, the guy didn't even ring the doorbell. I didn't even know he was even here. I look outside the front door, and there's like a big pile of
You didn't even
stuff.
look outside. My mom and I came home from Michael's and from Target, and there were literally 7 boxes piled up so that we couldn't get into the front door.
Oh, I know. And I was like, hey, I guess we had to go through the garage, open the garage up, and then go get the packages that way.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't get out. The packages were blocking the door. But
yeah, definitely. But do you know what we would be doing like a week from today, Chris?
going to Hawaii?
We would have been packing and the next morning leaving for Hawaii to get married had COVID not happened.
I know. It's horrible. This whole COVID has really put a big damper on the entire year. And people are kind of looking forward to 2021. But there's no promises that 2021 is going to be any different.
Exactly. But, you know, instead of going to the islands, like we were planning, what did we decide to do this week?
Well, this week we have a very special VIP guest, like always,
Yep.
who happens to be living in Hawaii right now.
Yep. And she's on the island of Oahu, and she's going to be right back with us right after this.
Hey there, K2 crew. We love having you as our loyal listeners.
To keep up to date with what's happening behind the scenes, check us out on social media.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter.
And don't forget to follow our Facebook page.
Yeah, tag us in your favorite fun stories, and guess what? You might just end up on the show.
Ooh.
The Podbreed Network is strictly for the small podcasts that are up and coming in the vast world of podcasting. Podbreed is made up of many diverse podcasts coming together to achieve the same goal of being the best damn podcast network on the planet. Find out more at podbreed.com.
And today on the show, our very special VIP guest happens to be a teacher, a military wife, and another fellow podcaster. Please welcome to the show, Kathy Sheffield.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on.
Hey,
We're so excited to have you.
yes, we are. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, Catherine, you prefer to be called Catherine or Kathy? Or Kat?
Catherine, please.
Did anybody ever call you Kat? Or is that your thing?
Yes. Actually, my mom does.
Oh, well, okay. So Kat or Catherine or Kathy?
Catherine, Chris.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So, Catherine, where in the world are you joining us today?
I am actually in Hawaii.
Aloha. Hawaii. What's the weather
What?
like over there? If I should know, I should probably know this, but
It's really hot and muggy today, actually, and it has been for the last few days.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense. Now, what island are you living on?
I live on Oahu, and I've been living here for about 3 years.
what part of the island are you actually living on?
I am on the leeward side, so that would be, let's see.
Are you bringing
be on the
nautical
west
terms?
side.
The west side, okay. The west side. Now that's over by the Turtle. Was it Turtle Beach? Was it Turtle?
Oh, no, Turtle Beach is up north on the North Shore. I'm more towards like the resort town, little Koalina, where the golf course is and stuff like that.
Okay, so Chris and I don't know if you know this, but we were supposed to get married on this coming November 20th at the Hilton Hawaiian Village there on Oahu, and we couldn't make it. So like in proximity to that location, is it the other side of the island?
Yeah, that's more toward Waikiki. Well, that's actually in Waikiki, so that'll be about
Right.
like a 30 minute drive depending on traffic.
Oh yeah, traffic was crazy over there. It was so busy when we went over there, and the roads were like I don't think the top speed was faster than like 50 miles an hour in some places of the freeway. I mean, I don't know if you have a sports car, what are you supposed to do?
Oh yeah, and we're also dodging like potholes all the time. There's so many potholes.
Is construction, like road construction, something they don't really take seriously over there?
I think they do, but I think that with the weather and it's like rainy sometimes, and I don't know, but it's just like wild because it'll do a number on your car.
Oh,
Well, yes, we experienced that. We rented a Jeep when we were there. We were actually in Hawaii a year ago this week and fell in love with it, especially Oahu. It is such a beautiful area. And Chris surprised me and took me to Manoa Falls, and we hiked that trail.
yeah, it was a pretty easy
Yeah.
trail to hike. I think it's the most pretty popular trail to hike is at Manoa Falls. And it was like raining. We were there. It was great. We were like in a rainforest. It was so jungle and lush. So different than San Diego.
Oh yeah, no, and that one's a good one. That was one of the first hikes we did when we got here.
So you said when we got there. So tell us a little about your story. How did you get to Hawaii?
Well, my husband's in the Army, and so we've been married for 13 years, and we have moved around. And before coming to Hawaii, we were actually in Germany for 3 years.
What? Guten Tag.
Oh my gosh, we've traveled so much, but and it was such a hard adjustment coming from Europe and then moving to Hawaii because you're kind of like stuck on the island. There's nowhere you could really go except to another island, you know?
Right. Now, I've heard that sometimes it's challenging for military spouses when they're moving around so much to find like a regular career, not just a kind of transitional job. Is that something that has been a challenge for you as you've moved around so much?
Oh, yes, it definitely was. I actually had the hardest time in Europe, like trying to find a full-time teaching position. And I ended up working at one of the American schools there as a substitute and as a like instructional aid. But it hurt me so bad because I was doing my doctoral degree at that time. And I was like, all I want to do is teach right now, and I can't. And so it's very frustrating. But coming to Hawaii actually was quite easy. I got picked up within a few weeks of living here. So I was very happy about that.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And Hawaii has a unique system of education, right? Like one school district, basically?
Yeah, they do. It's like spread across the state. And because it's, we're isolated by the islands, we're still all falling under the Department of Ed.
Well, that's great. Christine herself works in education.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so I heard you mention that you were working on your doctorate in education. When did you finish that?
I finished it in 2017.
Oh, that's awesome. What was the focus of your dissertation?
Oh, my focus was on military students. I was looking into the DODIA system, which is the military schooling system. And I just wanted to know about the factors that affect students and their test scores and, for them moving around. And so I kind of looked into the social factor of that.
That's so interesting. I work here in San Diego for the County Office of Education, and we are the grant evaluator for one of the DODIA grants off of Coronado Island, and it's exploring some of those same factors like transitions and the military deployment impact on student math development. But a lot of it is that social emotional factor for children that are consistently moving. Just like you were mentioning, you had been moving quite a bit. And so that's super interesting. Did you enjoy your doctoral experience?
It was rough, but I was thankful that it was an online program and it still gave me a lot of flexibility to travel. But I will say that it was probably the biggest challenge of my life. And there were times where I had to start from scratch, and I would get, think I would be so far ahead. And then one of the, advisors would say, oh, this is wrong. And then you have to go back and scrap your idea and then rebirth it over and over. And it was just so frustrating.
Oh, man, that's going to be rough.
Yeah, Chris has been standing by me on that journey. I just defended my proposal 4 weeks ago. And so I'm always looking for advice from people that have gone before me on what do I do in the home stretch? How do I keep sane?
Oh my gosh. Congrats, by the way, because that's a big accomplishment to take that.
Yes,
step.
it is.
I would say
tell her
just
congratulations. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, congratulations. Seriously. No, I was just going to say, just be, prepared for anything. Don't get too stuck in one idea because you might drift after the proposal phase, but I'm sure you're going to do fine.
So
thank you so much.
Are you using your doctorate right now for your career?
No, I'm actually not, because mine is more geared to, administration. But right now I shouldn't say I'm just a teacher. I just teach high school English right now. But honestly, it's one of my passions. So I'm not too upset about it.
Well, yeah, there is no just in teaching, especially in the time of COVID and distance learning. How has that impacted you as a teacher and working with your students?
It has been so taxing, working from home and then having two kids of my own who are school age. It's been such a challenge, juggling, doing my instruction all day with my high school students and then in between breaks, checking on my own two daughters and seeing what they're up to. It's been so challenging.
I bet it has been. My goodness. So So your day to day is everything you do school wise all remote Zoom type stuff? Or are you guys doing anything in the classroom at all? Because here they got it like half and half. Half the school district is home. Half the school district, like our kids, can go in, but they got to be like screened every single day, with a thermometer and wear masks and all that. How are you guys doing that?
They're depending it on school to school. And so right now, my school district is not school district, but my school zone is actually keeping it distance learning until after Christmas break. And then they're going to reevaluate and kind of do a gradual return to school. So I'm looking forward to that because I actually miss the face-to-face interaction with my students.
Yeah, it is kind of something. And I think that some kids, I think they pick up things differently. Christine, didn't you say that your son was doing much better on the Zoom rather than being in class?
Right. My son is a sophomore in high school, and he actually has much better grades, and he's learning a lot, and he likes the little bit of flexibility. And I heard him, he was FaceTiming a friend this morning who has gone back to in-person schooling, and he said, "Oh, well, that must be rough for you to have to actually go in person and see people."
Yeah, my daughter feels the same way. My middle schooler, I was thinking she was going to be like shell shocked and like totally upset. And she's like, "Oh, I love this." I'm like, "You do?"
Well,
yeah, definitely.
Well, speaking of everything being shut down, speaking of quarantine, I want to know is Hawaii did this really big lockdown on anybody coming to the islands. Was it 2-week quarantine mandatory? Nobody could, everybody, 5 people couldn't be gathered in the same spots. You couldn't go family to family. It's all got to be in-house. Has the tourism really just been like nobody there, like totally quiet now?
Yeah, Waikiki was a ghost town. It was a little jarring to go down there and just like have no traffic. You're just going through. I mean, some shops were open, but a lot of them, you see them closed. And it was just like, oh, this is so weird. But actually, tourism kicked back up, I want to say yesterday, and the flights have been pouring in. I mean, just like, because I live in the traffic pattern of the plane, so
yeah, I know exactly where you are. I know. We saw your house and we flew over on the way in.
I waved to you guys. Did you see me?
I got a video, yes.
but yeah, no, it's starting to pick up again. And we actually had 2 separate lockdowns. So we just got off of the second one, I want to say last week. It was rough.
Yeah, it was a really difficult decision for us to step away from having that Hawaiian wedding, and especially when we planned for it for a year.
And paid for everything too.
Right. But Chris kind of saw the writing on the wall when the second lockdown happened. He's like, "Honey, I think we've got to go with the plan B. Like if we want to keep the same date, we've got to make a change right now." And so I can only imagine what it even felt like on the islands having such restrictions. And so kudos to you all for being able to weather that storm.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was I think the hardest part for me was just not even being able to go to the beach. Like,
why not? Why couldn't they close them off?
Yeah, they closed all the beaches. They just opened up last week, which we were so thankful because it was fall break for my kids. I'm like, what are we going to do if there's no beach? But yeah, they closed them off because what was happening were big, huge parties, and you would pass by and you'd see like 40 people in a tent, and you're just like, okay, this is not a 6-foot distance happening there.
Oh, gotcha. I heard about that. So that's the thing too, is like if we were going to go to Hawaii to get married, we say we get there and say we even can get out, and then the beaches are closed, like everything was closed. It's like, what's the point? Because going to Hawaii from here, it's not cheap. It's not like driving down the street. It's kind of a big thing. So if I'm going to Hawaii, I'm going to do Hawaii. I'm not going to just go sit in my room and hang out there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, definitely.
Well, Catherine, what is your favorite part of living in Hawaii now?
I love just interacting with like the locals and just having the aloha experience. People are welcoming, and and just finding new places to eat, and just, I don't know, just every day trying to find something new, I guess, because living here for 3 years, you kind of say, oh, I've done it all. But I think if you look close enough, there's a lot more to do.
Right. And even though you're on Oahu, which is, I guess, comparable in size, it's probably the size of maybe San Diego County, LA County, maybe, Is it about the size of
Yeah,
LA,
I mean,
the whole island?
I don't know, but the population, I mean, it's kind of large. It's like in the like 3-4 million. So I mean, it's a lot living here.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like geography, like actual physical size
Oh
of the
yeah,
place.
yeah. I don't know about the size.
But yeah, I know that like so you're in Hawaii. I remember somebody told me years ago when I was over there how they got a package delivered. They were on Maui, and they got a package delivered. I think they sent it to Honolulu, and they said, can't you just drive over there and get it? Like the person on the FedEx like shipping department, okay, like, no, I can't. You have to physically ship it to. You have to get it to me.
Oh my goodness.
I'm on this other island. Well, it's the same state. Can't you just drive there? Like, no.
That's so funny, Chris.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I
That's
know.
so
Like,
silly.
you guys actually, how do you guys get island to island? Do you guys take boats or you guys fly?
Oh, I think the ferry service that they used to offer here years ago stopped. So yeah, you just jump on a quick flight and it usually takes like, it could take 30 minutes if you're going to Maui, 30, 45 minutes and you're there.
That's amazing.
Is it internet? Is it like big planes or small planes?
And they're smaller, but it's like Hawaiian Airlines or and Southwest now flies here too. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Well, it sounds like you've had an adventure-filled life by being a military spouse and been to
Yes.
places that many people probably dream about. And, one of the other things we wanted to chat with you about today is a newer project that you have launched into, and that is your podcast that you started just this summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started it in June.
So, what is your podcast called, and what was the inspiration for it?
It is called A Few Bad Apples, and the inspiration about it was really just to get people thinking about the social problems that we're seeing on the news all the time about the police and the brutality cases. But one thing I do want to clarify is that I'm not anti-police, and I don't know what my message has been received by some people, but that's not the premise to be anti-police. The premise is to provoke some change and internal reform.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, I saw the title of your podcast, and having a number of armed services, not armed services, but police officers, corrections officers in my family, and then also knowing that you were a military wife, I was just really wondering about like, what was the root of this epiphany that you needed to do something?
I was just hearing all the talk online about people who are so upset about the police and about the things that are happening and people who are getting, killed. And I thought about it and I was thinking, this is almost a daily occurrence or the media is making it seem like that. And I wanted to dive into cases. And what actually just started as going case by case, actually, I started to see a theme that a lot of times the police officers who are involved with these high profile cases, they have a history that probably if someone would have caught it early on would not have escalated to what it was. So I did see that a lot of people have bad track records and it gets overlooked and then we end up where we are today. So that was the goal after I was like, wow, I want to find these cases where this could have been prevented many times, but then it just kept snowballing.
Where do you find your research for this type of stuff? Do you call police departments or what do you do?
No, I actually just kind of do. First, I'll start off with like a general search, and then once I find a search, I try to find as many relevant articles. Like I use a lot of the New York Times. I use just a lot of available small local newspapers to see what I can find. And then I sometimes am lucky and find some really good audio clips that I like to embed into the episode so that you can get more of a feel for it.
That's so fascinating. And now I wonder if, are you just looking at current cases or have you done any like historical analysis? I know that the Central Park 5 case has been something really prominent with the new Netflix docuseries around it. Do you look current or do you look historical?
That's a great question. I'm actually I'm doing one right now. I'm working on one from the 1986 yeah, it happened in the 1980s with the New York Police Department. It was a big corruption scandal with police officers engaging in so much criminal activity. It was just so wild. But I really tried to have more of a open view. It can be about any race. I'm not focusing on one race. And I think a lot of people are surprised about that as well, because, we only hear, or people might think, oh, this only happens to a certain race, but that's not necessarily true.
Right. I think there's like your podcast states, there's bad apples. There's probably bad apples in all departments and all walks of life. What? That's just crazy. I remember there was a couple in San Diego. When every time there's it's always like a crazy And by the way, it's Domestic Violence Month this month, and the cases I remember are the ones where women were abused by officers, particularly here in town, and when they become news and they become news stories. Have you dove into any of the San Diego stories we've had in recent years?
No, I haven't, but I will look into it. I did a little mini series on Vallejo, California, and I was like blown away. It started off with going to do one episode, and then it like snowballed into another, and then another. I was like, oh my goodness! But
there's just so much. Huh?
I try to. Yeah, there's so much. Unfortunately, I mean, I hate to say like, wow, there's a lot of material on this because it's not like the most happy, of subjects, but. Yeah, I mean, I will look into San Diego though. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
and I am doing one for domestic violence. I will be releasing one at the end of the month pertaining to that.
That's great.
Well, I mean, it's not great that there's cases about domestic violence, but bringing awareness of like what the root of it is, definitely, right, Chris?
Absolutely. And back to saying about the San Diego ones, there was probably I remember there was. I think something happened around 2005, I think it was. And then there was one that happened, I think, somewhere, the big one that happened right around 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. The guy was taking women, the officer was pulling women over, I guess, that had either expired license or a warrant or something like that. And he would say, come with me into the bathroom and we'll make
this go away, basically.
Yeah, or something like that, and that's what happened.
My gosh!
There was video footage of him taking women into the liquor store bathroom of downtown, and you can see him take it. Yeah, so he got obviously charged and went to prison or something. But it's just crazy stories like that really kind of affect me when I hear and see things like that.
That sounds exactly like the last episode that I just released this past Tuesday.
Wow!
I mean, not the same exact nature, but but the officer was doing crimes like this. I mean, at one point, he even convinced a woman to baptize her and make the violation go away, and just so bizarre and so unnerving to okay, who do you trust if if this is happening to just a regular person?
Yeah, and I think that what you were saying at the very beginning is you're not anti-police, you're just trying to bring awareness to these incidents to figure out what the root of it is. And one of the things that Chris and I have talked about is how when we see stories of excessive force on the news, how it immediately casts a light on all individuals that are wearing the uniform to make them kind of the enemy. And that's not the goal. And a perfect example of that is when you see, I mean, you're in education like I am, when there's a case of teacher misconduct, you don't see the entire world turn on the entire teaching profession because one teacher mistreated or violated an individual. But you do see that happen when it comes to individuals wearing the uniform. What do you think is behind that?
That's a really great point. And I think, just from my own, research, I just think that it's hard because the community sometimes loses their trust. And so when you hear of one officer in your community that's guilty of doing something, they they cast the bad light on all of them because they think, well, who do we trust now? You're supposed to be the ones that we're calling. And that's the sad part about it, because I do a good story at the end of every episode to try to show, hey, there are really good, devoted officers out there who are making a difference. So I try to balance it because it's so negative.
Right. It's almost like your Jerry Springer moment at the very end of the, you ever watch Jerry Springer? How he had like that moment at the very end where you like sit down and tell you his peaceful thoughts, like his thought of the day.
We're not calling you Jerry Springer. Sorry,
no,
Catherine.
not at all. I'm just someone. I just wonder if you have that whole like speech he does at the very end of your podcast, like a bring it together, close kind of thing.
Oh, I'm going to have to implement one of those. That sounds pretty interesting.
Well, you ever seen the show? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like a food for thought moment.
Right.
So I do have a question. It might be a little bit deeper for you, Catherine, but you mentioned that your spouse is currently still in the Army?
Correct. Yes.
So I know that one of the things, I'm going to kind of birdwalk for a second and I'll be right back. But one of the things that I've noticed is when I speak out about instances of police excessive force or police misconduct, that I can get some negative feedback from those in my immediate circle about that. So knowing that your husband wears a uniform, even though it's different with police, do you get any negative feedback from the military community about your podcast?
Well, not really. So far, no one has told me anything, but I will tell you that I do sometimes feel like I need to tuck my tail a little bit, in the sense that I know that it's a very touchy subject. But I think that if someone really takes the time to hear what I'm saying, that they will know, oh, okay, I see exactly what you're doing. You're only talking about the bad officers, So, and I would love to explain to anybody that really has any questions about it. But no, so far, nobody has said anything. And honestly, I am very cognizant, like he is in the military, but I asked him what he thinks and he was like, you know what? I don't think you're doing anything wrong.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's good to have his support of what you're doing. Because if he was like, "No, you shouldn't be doing that. What are you doing?" That'd be a little tension you guys would have, in the family. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't pursue it if he was really like opposed to it. But he's actually blown away with how much support I've received, and honestly, I am too.
Well, it's a really courageous move to be able to bring light to a subject and have a conversation and dig deep into the facts surrounding, because what we tend to find on the newsfeed are soundbite clips of incidences, and they're normally the most egregious pieces of it. But delving deeper into like what are the warning signs and bringing awareness to that seems like it could actually be really beneficial to long-term police reform.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, there's a little, usually in probably most of the cases, I should say, are like this little nugget that got overlooked of information like, hey, this person failed their, polygraph test or something in the beginning that someone just totally allowed them to continue forward. And you look back and you're like, okay, but then look at what they did now. Were they even fit in the first place? And that's all it is really just to say, are you looking for new ways to reform? Well, maybe look at people's past history. Or my newest idea for reform is, why don't you check in with these officers? I found out that they don't really do any extra mental health checks with them. Once they pass, that's it. No one ever, says, hey, how you doing? Let's have a mini evaluation or something, just to see how they're mentally doing. I found that out and I was like blown away. I was like, wait, what?
Do they, I don't know this, but do they do anything like that in the military?
Well, I think that with the military, there's a lot more like people are looking at you a lot and kind of keeping in touch with you. And now with a lot of suicides occurring within members of the military, I do think that people are a little bit more alert and, trying to check in with you, and will keep a little bit more tabs on you. But for some reason with the police department, from what I've gathered, it doesn't seem like they're doing that.
Yeah, from what I've noticed from individuals that I know that are serving behind the badge that those types of mental health supports are typically reserved for after some type of a situation, and it's kind of part of a clearing process. Like if there's been an officer involved shooting or a discharge of a weapon or some type of really traumatic event, that comes into play. But it is, I don't want to minimize it and call it just for compliance, but it is partly for a box checking. And that does seem like mental health support might be good considering all that our officers go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And their job is so intense, and especially like you get a mixed vibe from the community. Some are for you, some are against you, and I think mental health screenings definitely would just check in, see if they're okay. I mean, they do everything from like even just basic welfare checks to being there at a crime scene, and it's intense and it takes a lot on them, and sometimes I think that those situations can cause them to snap. So if we can catch that before it gets to that point. That would be my biggest thing that I would be advocating for right now. Just like if you're going to do any type of reform, let's try to see how can we implement mental health and checking in with them and, asking them, are you all right? How are you doing?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, one of the things that I learned when one of my closest friends was in the military, not in the police force, but he took me on base with him and was showing me that there was like a family services center even on base to like help out with families and to check in with them. Is there anything like that to support the families of officers? Because I've heard that there's a lot of high stats around domestic violence in police households.
Yeah, there is. And I just actually found that out for this episode coming out, not this week, but next. Yeah, I was surprised to know that there is a very, very astounding number of domestic violence cases within the police. And I do not know. And I'll be honest with you. I do have family members who are in the police, and I don't think there's any other resources. It sounds like they come in and they do their shifts and they go home. It doesn't sound like there's any type of extra, support systems or resources available from what I've heard. I've never heard anyone mention any.
That seems so crazy to me because I feel like, and I'm an outsider, so maybe you can kind of push back on this, but I feel that being a police officer or a corrections officer is the closest thing to being a military family in terms of the call to respond around the clock and the stresses and the pressures that go along with that. What kind of structures do you have as a military family that you think might be beneficial for the police force?
We have a family readiness group, FRG, also known as, that they try to get families together like once or twice a month. They do activities. They just, want to get to know you because maybe, the officers know, they know each other, but what about the family? Do you know who the family is? So in the military, they do try to get the family involved a lot. And I mean, some people choose not to go, but the option's always there, and people are always invited. Their kids are always invited. And so I feel like with the military, they do a really active effort to get everyone involved, or at least feel like they're invited and able to participate.
That is great. That is fantastic. Now, are you talking more along the lines of the military where the houses are all like everybody lives on base kind of thing? Like military housing?
I mean, well, if you live off the base, you can still be connected in that group because the commander's, I believe it's the commander's wife, is in charge of the FRG, and so they have a list of everyone in the unit, and they have their information, and so they'll reach out via email or phone call or social media, and they'll set up these events to get people together. But now with COVID, obviously, that's not happening that frequently. But but they still do try to check in with you or just say, hey, do you need anything? If there's, if there was a problem, they would know about it and they would bring food or they would gather people together. And so there's like a mini community within the Army, like little mini communities all without every unit.
And do you find that, I know you mentioned that you don't see a support structure, like a physical support structure in the police realm. I know there's a lot of loyalty between officers, but, you hear of like, wearing blue, like back the badge and movements like that. But is there anything to support officers other, like not the social emotional stuff, but anything out there?
Not that I've seen. I mean, I know that there's big advocates for the police in general, like you said, the back the blue type of thing. But I don't know, like, how local is it? For every department, is there something like that? I mean, that would not be a bad community initiative around the globe, or around the country, to say, hey, let's form little groups to help out or just to check in, But as far as I know, I would say no.
And I just can only imagine the tremendous amount of stress. This isn't to minimize anything that has happened in a negative way. I'm talking about the not few bad apples. The rest that, how can we also safeguard our officers that are abiding by the law and doing their best to protect and care for the community, which might help to weed out those that are in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, you find is there some of these bad apples that join in with the sole purpose that they are going to toss some stuff over and they're really going to really make some waves when they get in there?
I found that a lot of times it happens by accident, or they kind of, they don't really plan to be bad, but then something happens that they slowly try something and then they get away with it, and then it's just kind of continues. So I think that it's unfortunate for the good Apple police officers that they would have to work extra hard to prove, hey, we're on the good side. It's kind of sad. It's a catch-22 because they're stuck in the middle of that. They're being grouped in with the bad ones.
Yeah, they all are. I mean, that's a problem with that. Is you got one. It can go for any kind of job, really. I mean, any kind of thing. If you have a bad experience, say with a teacher, like you did horrible at school and you hated school as a kid, and then every classroom after that, you just dread going and you just can't stand the teacher, even if it may be a good teacher. You just dread it because of your past experience.
Yeah, that's true. And and this story that I was looking in, it's called the Buddy Boys. I had never heard of it. It was just like 13 officers in NYPD back in the 80s. One of them, he said, it started off with me stealing some batteries off the shelf of a store. And then gradually it progressed to him actually extorting money from drug dealers. And and then selling crack cocaine. And
well, that escalated quickly.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a wild story. It's just chronologically, it's a mess trying to put together. But I was just like, whoa. And then you hear another officer, he's like, it wasn't even about the money. It was about the brotherhood mentality about it. He felt like he was a part of something. So it's really the motive behind them doing something wrong could really be different for every person.
That's really interesting because, from the outside, there's perceptions that like for excessive force, that an officer was just doing it because they're a violent individual, or, for the ones that get caught with corruption, that they were just greedy and money hungry. But really looking at what the root cause of it is, and then figuring out maybe how to assess for those types of things on the front end before someone enters into the force. Like, does this person have attachment issues? Are they financially stable and aware of money management and those types of skills? And I know that seems like a lot to put on our officers, but they have a lot of power, and it seems like something like that, not necessarily an assessment, but something like that might help on the front end to be a little bit of a gatekeeper. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking. Be a little more thorough maybe with the screening process. I mean, even if one thing seems odd, maybe put that red flag them and then revisit that, because the last case I did, or 2 cases ago, Justine Damond from Minneapolis, she was just shot by walking outside her door to go. She was just going to talk with the officer. And the officer, it turns out, after doing a little research on him, when he was being screened, they realized he really has issues where he tries to avoid people. And he would get calls and ignore them. Like, could you not have, maybe he wasn't fit for this job. This is a people community serving job.
Right. Definitely. And It just sounds like what you're doing, like I mentioned, is very brave and very courageous. And I know that it can come with some worries about if people think, like you mentioned, that you don't care for the police. But it sounds like you're really trying to think about a way to bring substantive change to the police departments around our country.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to find a better way to possibly suggest these ideas and maybe publicize them a little more on my website. So I do think that's the work that I still have to do.
Well, you just got started with podcasting a few months ago, and it sounds like you are already off to a really great start. And I know that those that are listening are probably intrigued to hear about what it is that you've been finding. So where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere, actually, Google. Yes, and I hope if you do listen, that you enjoy. And if you have questions, please email me at badapplespodcast@yahoo.com.
What is
Awesome.
the name of your website, Kathy?
Oh, it is a Wix site. It's kind of long, but I can send it to you if you want to link it.
Okay, I got you. I didn't know if you had a domain, if it was badapples.com or something like that. So
We'll definitely leave the website in our show notes. And so you can find Catherine's podcast, A Few Bad Apples, on the areas that she mentioned, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can link to her website through the show notes in this episode. And on Instagram and Facebook, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, at Facebook, it's facebook.com/afewbadappleспod. And on Twitter, it's @fewapples.
Awesome. So listeners, I hope that this has piqued your curiosity, that you've learned a little bit about Katherine and her background and this passion to support police reform in our country. Thank you so much for being on our show this week.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
thanks, Kathy.
Once every harvest moon, a talk show comes along that is so groundbreaking, raising the bar to such heights that other podcasts step back and say, wow, that show's got it figured out. With a host, tempered in focus, commitment, and sheer will, this is The Derek Duvall Show. Pop culture, news, and interviews with fascinating people that channel the great Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite. The Derek Duvall Show. Find him on Twitter and Instagram at Derek Duvall Show, and find his new episodes every Wednesday on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play, and Podchaser. The Derek Duvall Show. The best thing to happen to Hump Day since the Geico camel. What?
Well, that was fantastic to have Katherine on the show today. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was so interesting listening to her take on her podcast with these investigations into A Few Bad Apples.
Right. It's funny to think, you think the police officers are there to help you out, but there are a few bad apples out there. And they, just like in any industry, really, there are people that are shady, McShadersons, and
Right.
they like to do bad things. You got to watch out for those.
Right, but it's not widespread. And like she was saying, I'm sure that she can get some flack from people thinking that she's casting this negative light on law enforcement. And that's definitely not what she's doing. And it's the same way I think about in education when you hear bad stories about a teacher or a coach doing something bad or engaging in inappropriate activities with a student. You don't go and then hate all teachers. It's the same type of thing. There's a few bad apples.
But there are people that do, though. They will kind of group everybody. It's the same thing happened with the Catholic Church many years ago, and that stuff. And then also, you work in education, so you probably
Right.
see kids, and you probably see you've probably seen horror stories, that you hear about the news. Of all the horror stories you hear in the news about people like teachers doing bad things with kids, does that always get reported?
I don't know. As an educator, I'm required to report if anything was brought to my attention, whether or not it had been reported before. I would have to report it or I could lose my job. And I know that's the case with all others in education.
But why law enforcement? Why is there...
I think law enforcement are mandated reporters also when things happen to children. But, I think that, and this is not just to lump into law enforcement in general, but I think this has to do with power. And when people get positions of power, it can go to their head, right, Chris?
Oh, 100%. I mean, even slight just a little bit. I mean, you're the boss for a day. I mean, look at the assistant manager. When he gets a hold of a position, the boss is gone and he's in charge, he probably goes straight to his head.
Yeah.
And all that. But yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what it'd be like for a person that if you got pulled over by a cop and something bad happened to you and you try to say stuff, speak up about it, and who do you really go to? You can't trust anybody.
Right. You know what it makes me think about, and it's not about external to the police department, but it's internal. And it's been years and years and years since I've seen this movie, but the movie Training Day.
Oh, I have it on DVD, yeah.
Yeah, about like corruption inside of the police department, even with a trainee. And again, this is not to speak negatively of law enforcement because I am so grateful for their protection. But there are instances, like we said, in every field where a few bad apples kind of ruin it for everybody, right?
Oh, yeah. And like she was saying, that's what the heart of her podcast, which is so fantastic, by the way. So you guys got to give it a listen.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think it's so interesting that an educator would find this to be her hobby and like what she's most interested in researching. And I could see how I could nerd out on something like that. Maybe I'll do a podcast like that. Maybe not about law enforcement, but some random podcast after I finish school. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, maybe you could do your same kind of spin-off with the school district maybe or something. Or maybe even politics, local city politics maybe.
Ooh. Yeah, instead of the West Wing, it'll be like the East County Wing.
Oh, or whatever, San Diego City. Yeah. Speaking of the city council, I remember years and years ago, I think before you got here to town, the city council here in town was so corrupt.
Really?
The mayor of San Diego, what was he doing? He was like, I think he got kicked out because he was doing inappropriate things with like a secretary and stuff.
Oh gosh.
And
family friendly podcast.
Well,
family friendly.
What I'm saying is that he would do things like that and he got in trouble, and the city council was doing shady things too. There was this big old thing where I believe the city council would what were they doing? They were actually taking money from let's say adult venues to keep them open or to do something. They were fluffing the books or doing some shady stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of things like that. I mean, the whole place is all corrupt. That's why I don't trust a lot of them,
Yeah, I get that. And, I think that it's just an interesting concept to explore. I don't think it's one that I would want to do a podcast personally about. But I think that it's super, super interesting. And I've learned so much from Catherine. And it was really fantastic to have her on the show today.
It was definitely fantastic. So, hey, babe, do you got anything else new you want to share?
Well, I am just very excited to be on like the official countdown to our wedding. And, for me, it's not about the wedding ceremony as much as it is the official start of our future forever together.
Oh,
and I'm just very excited.
I'm very excited too.
Tell me.
I'm so excited to be marrying you. And we get to start a family together. It's like a community. It's like a big team. It's like we're joining forces to conquer the world together.
We are. And when you say starting a family together, we're just blending our families together. No surprises. There will be no additional children, only pets like Paisley.
Paisley the turtle. That's our baby.
Yeah, Paisley.
Your baby, really, more than
she's ours. We got her together. Now, Paisley has a birthday coming up in
How do you even know that,
January,
by the way?
February, March, April. She was born in January. We got her in April 4th.
Are you picking the day we got her or the day she was born?
No, they said she was 4 months old when we got her. So I think January 4th is officially what we're calling her birthday.
Oh, you just pick a day?
I am picking a day.
You said January 4th?
Yes, I'm picking a day.
Okay, whatever. I mean,
January 4th is officially Paisley's birthday.
Are you going to put like a little plaque on her in her little cage?
I am going to celebrate her birthday. Do you know that I found out that Paisley is supposed to live until she's 80 to 100 years old?
Really?
Yes. And so do you know what that means?
I mean, she'll outlive us?
Exactly. That means that in our will, when we develop one after we get married, we're going to have to designate a caretaker for Paisley for her life.
How big will she be though?
I think that she gets about a foot long.
That's the biggest she'll get?
I think so. But
Okay.
by that point, she'll be living outside. She's going to be as big as the neighbor's turtle Snapdragon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty big.
Okay. Cool.
But I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that maybe we could get turtle babies sometime?
Okay, now you're getting carried away here with this whole turtle
come on.
stuff.
I don't get to have other kids, so it's either that or dog.
Oh, maybe a dog. Maybe.
You would rather have a dog than turtle babies?
I don't know. Maybe. Do I have to take care of the dog? Do I have to clean up after it?
Yes, you do.
Then no dog then.
I just get to play with it and pet it and comb it and give it a bath, and you get to walk it and pick up all of its mess.
That's what I've always done with dogs. I'm the one, it's so funny. We fellas listening out here, if you're dating a girl and she's, I want a puppy, guess what? You will be one taking care of the dog. She will just cuddle with it and sleep with it and maybe take it out to like show her friends. But you will be the one picking up all the poop. You'll be the one buying the food, watering it, feeding it.
That's not true when it comes to me.
Giving it baths.
I am the one that takes care of Paisley the majority of the time.
No, I do.
No, you only have to watch her a couple of
I
days.
always change her water and feed her all the time.
Always. It's like once every couple of weeks.
Well, there you go.
Yes, once every couple of weeks.
Once is once too many if you ask me.
Oh my gosh. OMG. Well, we are very excited for our wedding coming up, and we're mentioning Paisley because she will be a special part of our upcoming celebration, and you will have to stay tuned to our social media channels to see what's happening in the world of Chris and Christine as wedding day creeps nearer and nearer.
What, next week, right?
No.
Week after next?
Well, yesterday was a 2-week mark, so it's going to be the 20th. Yay!
There you go. Hey, and if you want to send us any gifts or prizes, we do have an open registry. That registry is, what is our website called, babe?
Oh, alohasmith2020.com.
And you go on there, you click on some link or something on there, and you can find gift registry. That's very important. Look up gift registry.
OMG.
And
You know
can
what?
find gifts for us to for our show. And for
But
us.
funny enough, one of our friends that was a guest on our podcast did surprise us with sending us today a wedding gift, which is very, very thoughtful.
Well, thanks, Aston. That was great.
Yeah, thanks, Aston. That was so thoughtful. And we're waiting to open it for a couple more days.
Aloha Smith 2020 gift registry. It's very
oh my
important.
gosh, Chris, this is just like you trying to get extra birthday presents, honey.
That's right.
Let's not be greedy.
Old birthday presents. My birthday did pass up, but don't worry about it. Old presents, you can send them to what's our email again?
Well, alohasmith2020.com. And you do not get our address. It just sends it automatically to our house.
Right. But you can send gift cards.
Oh my gosh,
to
that's
me.
enough.
You can find us at chrisandchristineshow.com.
You're too much. But we really do appreciate you all. We appreciate you tuning in every week and following us on our journey as we meet amazing new people and learn about the fascinating things that they're doing to make the world a better, kinder, and more loving place. Right, Chris?
Absolutely. And we will be back here next week for another brand new episode, and we'll see you then.
Remember this week that life is too short to wake up in the morning with regret.
So love the people who treat you right, forget about the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason.
If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said that it would be easy.
They just promised it would be worth it. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Chris.
And I'm Christine, and until next week,
Keep moving forward.